Welcome to Shadow Empire Academy. Today you will learn how to play with Oceania DLC. I will explain you what elements are new in this DLC and how the game changed, so after watching this video you will be able to play on water planets and deal with maritime trade houses without any problems. So let's start a new game. One of the main features of this DLC are new water-based planets available in the Oceania tab. So we have Gaia, Arctica, Proteus, Fontus, different kind of planets where we have a lot of water. And on such planets, the DLC is automatically enabled. So if I select Gaia, continue, there is a new option, Oceania DLC features. And this option is automatically enabled and I cannot uncheck it here for the water planets. The other difference is that the number of initial zones is always city-state start. So we are not able to select the start with 2 or 3 zones. The rest of the options is the same. So now let's go back. And if we go to the core planets where we also have water, like Limos, Siwa, Medusa, and continue, we also have the Oceania DLC features option, but this is unchecked and I cannot click it. I cannot check this option, but please notice that here we have 2 zones and 3 zones available. So this is the big difference, that we cannot play Oceania on all core planets. But there is one exception. Some of the core planets have this DLC label. Currently it's only for unclassified and in additional section for the Colossus. So those 2 types allow us to enable the Oceania DLC. So if you go there, continue, here I can check or uncheck Oceania DLC features, and also here I can change the number of starting zones. So let's go back to the list of planets, go to Oceania, and here you can see all of them have DLC label. So let's select Gaia, continue. And regarding planet generation, there is only one important factor. So maybe if we go to detailed planet generation, in geology section, if we zoom out, there is quite different layout of our maps. So we have a kind of islands or smaller continents, and it's good to select something that will fit your needs, because in Oceania, all water area will be divided into kind of trade areas, but water-based, which will allow you to connect those continents. So the water in Oceania is not abandoned. It's managed by maritime trade houses, and they allow you to send troops for a long distance, so you can even connect this continent with this one, and you can have zone even on this island. But if this is your first game, probably you would like to have less small islands and a kind of 2-3 bigger continents. So let's reroll and check this one. This one is probably better if you are new to the Oceania, because we have here one big connected continent, and here we have second smaller one, and here a tiny one. So that would be much better and will allow you also to use this area to quicker access this part on the southwest. So take this into account. Now I will load few already generated planets to show you how the game works. In this example, we are on the quite strange planet with purple water. But please notice that I click on the water and we can see that this is a sea zone. So the main difference is that we have land zones and sea zones. And sea zones belongs to one of the maritime trade houses. And there are many of them. When you start your game, you will know those who are bordering with your zone or are discovered by your Recon. In this case, I play on the planet without a fog of war, so we can see much more. If I go north, you can see this is Dionysus Sea Maritime Trade House, MTH, and this is their logo or flag or a symbol identifying them. Here you can see there is a zone border, and this is another zone, Aphrodite Sea, and they have that icon. So the water is no longer empty. The water is divided into some zones, which are equivalents of trade areas, where there is headquarters of maritime trade houses. It's good to know that even this small island is also a separate zone. So we have sea zones that belonging to maritime trade houses, and also independent empty zones that can contain some hexperks, and also zones as in a normal game. If we zoom out, you can see that this part is disconnected, but this part is quite big continent, and I can access most of the terrain. But in Oceania there are very often the choke points that would be hard to pass through if enemy is defending them well. Please also notice how many trade houses we have on this planet. And I see them because I play without fog of war. Normally you would see only this first one or two. What is new? For example, here, if I go to assets, this is a hex that is containing new type of asset. In Oceania we have harbors or ports. In this case, this is private harbor, and they offer me some port points, which are affecting the logistics that I can establish over the sea. And also they are affecting the amount of items that the trade house can trade with your land-based traders. And we receive some credits and even food. But in case of food, it depends on your planetary conditions. So let's go to the report, help and planetary statistics overview. And there is a new section, fishing. And you can see that fishing is available on this planet. And there is information, nutritional modifier for the fish is 50%. That's why we receive only half of the food that we could. Because private economy receive 25 private food and 20 credits, but they could receive 50 private food. So the planetary modifier is decreasing by 50% the amount of food. But there are planets that you will have no food. And this is quite important factor. And I can build my own ports. So if I go to construct, logistics, and scroll down, you can see port. And port is a public construction that is more effective than the private one. So we receive much more food and much more port points. But of course we need 2000 workers. So there is always a trade-off. Of course, same as in case of private transport hub, we can nationalize this asset for 1000 credits and it will become public. The other difference is that in the organization's economic council, this council receive a new task. There is MTH Liasons, and this task is responsible for generating a special kind of stratagems. If we go to overview, stratagem generation, on the bottom there is MTH Liasons Stratagems, and the first one is contact MTH. Important card, but usually after the first round, the nearby MTH will contact you anyway. So you can wait with playing such cards one round. And the cards can be found in the Stratagems MTH section. Currently, I'm starting only with one card. Depending on the difficulty, you will have more cards. But if you invest enough budget, so bureaucratic points to the task of the Economic Council, you will have much more interesting cards. And you can play them mainly on the sea zones. Okay, now I will load a different game to get rid of this purple color. Okay, I have loaded new game, and please notice that the water is much better. And if we zoom out, we have fog of war. So we don't know what is the shape of the continents and where are other trade houses. Currently, if you go to the strategic map and to zones, here you can notice that there are water zones. So Dionysus also in this game, but here there is Hestia Deep, Poseidon Bay, Skadi Great Lake, and Eric Ocean. Oceans sometimes can be divided into one or more areas. So I know the second part of the ocean, but I don't know the first one. And one of the important differences in Oceania is that now the credits that you have in your pocket and the industrial points that you have in your SHQ are very important, because sometimes the trade houses will contact you to buy industrial points and give you a lot of credits. So you may see decisions that MTH is offering to buy industrial points in your zone. And in this case, I can receive 651 credits for 480 industrial points. Sometimes it's a lot, but sometimes this is the only money that you can get to renew your contracts or maybe buy some important shares. And also this is a way how you can increase or decrease the relation with some trade houses. And the next decision is a trade house that is trying to establish a communication line with us. And you can see this cost 200 credits. So credits are very important to not lose some opportunities. And sometimes such events you can predict because you trigger them. For example, this event can be triggered if I will play a contact MTH card. So I can select as a target, let's say Poseidon Bay, because I don't have contact with them. And now if I will play this card, you can see that we are expecting word back next round. So next round I will have an event like this one, and they will offer me communication line, but I will have to pay 200 credits. So it's good to have money in reserve. And the contact is very important because it unlocks all other stratagems. So this card is same as open contact in major diplomatic cards, so open contact with some regimes. But in this case, we are opening contact with MTH, where we need a communication. So if we compare the standard core game to Oceania, here the money and industrial points that you have unused are much more important. Now let's go to the report, and here there is a new section, Maritime Trade Houses. If you start a new game, you will have probably one or two, and the more you explore the neighborhood, the more trade houses you will see. And in the overview, you can see level of Recon. Normally you have none, sometimes you have communication. So here, for example, I am in communication with this trade house, that's why this is com, visible in this column. And sometimes you can have also a contract. And you can see how many zones they have currently. And please notice that they can have more than one, because trade houses can declare war to each other and conquer their zones. And even they can destroy another trade house. And if you have contracts with the destroyed trade house, then you have a problem. So it's important to recognize where you would like to invest your money, and the amount of ships they have are representing not only their combat power, but also how many logistics or goods they can transfer, because the same ships are fighting and are transporting. And during the game, the number of ships can increase or decrease if they are fighting each other, and also you can help them and finance some ships. So this is another level of game in Shadow Empire. And one important information, in Oceania, you don't have your own naval units. Only trade houses can own ships which fight each other, but you are not directly participating in such battles. You will receive reports after the battles, you can read logs if they are preparing for the naval battles, but you don't design your navy units, so you are not directly engaged into sea battles. Some people bought Oceania because they thought that there will be naval units, but no, currently they are not here. Maybe in future there will be some update, or maybe they will appear in some other DLC. Fingers crossed. In next column you can see how many shares this trade house owns, and some of the shares from time to time can be emitted, and there will be an auction event where you can try to buy such shares. And the more shares you have, the more influential you are to this trade house, and the more dividends they will pay you because of the earnings that they are doing, because those are traders. They trade for money, and if you buy shares, you are participating in their earnings. In this column, you can see main shareholders, and in this case, unknown regime owns one MTH shares, and we don't know who. They have 15, and one is owned by somebody else. And this is the main shareholder, and here we can see other shareholders. Now I will quickly explain MTH Details screen, and then we'll go through the examples, how to play the MTH stratagems and how we can use them in your gameplay. So basically each MTH will appear on this list, and you can have different level of information depending on the contact and if you have shares. Please notice there are 3 tabs here. So the logs will contain also more information, the better contact with that trade house. Currently we can see only a basic data, and for this one we don't have anything because there is no communication. Also the trade houses can trade with the local traders. As I said, the amount of goods that they can trade depends on the port points also. By default is 50 plus 1 per each 5 port points. And currently we don't see here much, but in future there will be much more to read. So here we can see the relation. Currently relation is bad with this trade house, but for example Hestia, they like us. Each trade house has a different icon, and on the bottom there is a map, and on the map the trade houses are represented by the acronyms from their name. So Hera C will be H and C visible on the map, so here. And if I select Air Ocean, so E and O, they are here. Also there is some blue color visible for the selected trade house, but it's visible only for the area that you know. So the more you know, the more visible it will be which trade house is selected. Currently the UI is not great here, so I cannot click this. And also your empire is visible as a light green color. So this is the land empire, and trade houses are all around. Here you can see the same information like in the overview, so how many ships they have, how many money, but we don't know currently, and how many credits we receive from their shares. They have 12 shares, we have 0 currently, so we have 0 credits. And if we have shares, we also gain influence points, and those points are allowing us to affect the trade house. For example, we can affect their piracy attitude, we can affect a relation with us, and many other elements. Here we can see how many logistical points they are offering based on the ships. So if they are losing some capacity during the sea battles, the tonnage can also decrease. And here some modifiers regarding the prices. So in general, the more tonnage available, the cheaper it is to get some part of the tonnage if you establish some logistical lines between continents using this trade house. So relation in this case are increasing the prices because they don't like us, but liquidity, it's a global modifier that is also take into account a situation of other trade houses. And in each trade house there is a leader, and leader has its support score. So we can treat trade house as a kind of minor regime with only one leader, and he can be changed to somebody else. And leader is affecting the aggression and expansionist attributes of the trade house. So how eager they are to go to war, or how much they would like to contact with pirates. And here we can see the piracy attitude. The piracy means that some minor regimes can ask to transfer their units into the shore of your empire, and this can be risky. So sometimes you will see decision one round before it will happen. So it's also important factor. Warfare means how good they are during the sea battles, and greed, how good the contracts are for them versus to you. So the higher the number, the worse is for you. So for example, these guys, they would like to get more money from the contacts for themselves, and those guys will have better prices. And last one is the overall category or type of trade house. So it's a kind of culture. They are algae farmers, and they will have extra food supplies. And those guys are fish whisperers. This is quite interesting one because during the naval battles they can receive help from alien creatures, because in Oceania DLC we have also some independent units that are in the sea zones, and they can sometimes appear near your zone, and some of them can even enter the land and fight with your units. So sometimes watch out your shore because some creatures can appear. Okay, so now stop talking and let's do some actions. So usually when you start your game, it's good to establish a contact with your nearby trade houses. And please notice that if we enable the logistical layer by pressing L on the keyboard, there is a blue number. And this is the number of port points that we generate in that hex. And it's generated by, in this case, by a private harbor. And please notice that we have 0 private food because the conditions of this planet are not allowing us. As we go to the help, you can see fishing is allowed, but it's not edible. So the nutrition modifier for fish is 0. And if you have the port points highlighted, it's wise to have contact with the trade house that is near your ports, because you will be able to use those port points to have logistical lines over the sea in the future. But first thing first, we need to better recognize our situation. So early game, you will need information regarding the sea zones nearby, because currently you will see a big question mark. So what we can do? We can play information stratagems and recon stratagems. I will load different game to show you. So here I have conquered most of the available area. Here there are mountains, here some forests, and I'm starting to look maybe for new continents or islands. And to do this, I need to have better recon on the sea zones. The nearby sea area is called Air Ocean, and we have communication, so we can play some stratagems. If I go now to MTH cards, there is information contract. this will be our first contract that we can negotiate with one of the trade houses. I need to target a sea zone, and what it does is it will increase the recon on some random hexes in this zone. So I will execute the stratagem, and usually MTH stratagems has an effect on the next round. So we are scheduling them, and next round somebody from the trade house will visit us and we will have negotiations. So let's check next round. In next round, in the decisions, there will be information exchange contact meeting. So we have negotiations, and now we can agree how long the contract should last and how much we'll pay. The cost of the credit depends heavily on how greedy they are and what are the relations. But information contract is quite cheap one. Let's say we'll pay for 4 rounds of such contract. We can check running contracts overview in the MTH reports. So if we go to the MTH contracts, you can see that we have exploration contract with this trade house and it's awaiting. So next round it will be executed. Let's check it in action. So there is another round. And you can see that we have some visibility. Some hexes receive 1 recon. If we zoom out, you can see that here we discovered some land. There is faraway grotto zone discovered. And here we discovered also some land. And even we have 5 recon points on this beach. And if you go to the strategical map, you can see all those hexes with recon and how are covering this sea zone. And we also discovered there is third part of this ocean here. So there are 3 parts: first, second, and third part of the ocean. So it's good to play the information card or the recon card or have better visibility over the sea, especially to discover such islands. Also, in the stratagems, we have a recon contract. It's much more expensive. So let's play it on a zone where we don't have a good recon. For example, this one. Scuddy Great Lake, execute, and play next round. And in this round, we have recon contract meeting with another trade house. Prices will be different. They are much more expensive. Let's say 2 rounds of recon, 78 credits. And let's play next round. And now let's check the effects. If we go to strategic map, you can see that here we also receive some recon, but much more, especially near the land. We have much better visibility. So please notice that we have the visibility for many hexes. Here I have 1 recon point, but here I have 5. Here I have 20 recon points. So we are receiving much more recon points. We can even see that there are some units. Here we can see a big free folk town, 32,000 free folks in this one hex. I would like to have this island. So the recon card providing us much more information regarding the land. And of course, some sea hexes are uncovered. So now we should also know much more here. So there is inner machine zone, and this is minor regime, Azanian territory. And please notice that the exploration contract still is ongoing. So this round we'll have much more hexes uncovered, but we don't see much details regarding the land. So if you play enough expeditions and recon cards, you will discover more lands that you could conquer. For example, this one is looking quite promising because this is quite flat terrain. Usually you should avoid terrain where there are only mountains because there will be hard to keep logistics. So this one is not really a good one, but here I see a lot of flat terrain, so maybe we could establish a landing zone somewhere here. And now you will learn how to use transport contracts. So in our stratagems, we already have much more MTH cards. Maybe we can quickly review them. So this one, shipyarding, will improve relation with the trade house, and also we can finance them a new ship, but it will cost us 2000 credits. Makeshift Port is a next step after you have a transport contract, because it will be a free private low-level port that will increase the logistical capacity over the sea. Contact you know, recon you know, information we already played. Policy meeting can allow you to do some actions regarding the trade house and use influence points to achieve some political gains. And transport contract. So let's play it, and we will select here. We are selecting usually the sea zones, not the zone where I would like to land, but I select the sea zone, which is bordering with the land that is interesting to me. So I will execute, and please remember, I am requesting a meeting. So now nothing will happen, but next round they will contact us. So let's play next round. And we are in next round. In zone decisions, there is transport contact meeting. And this is quite interesting one. Can be really scary first time you will see it, because you can see many options, many checkboxes, and what is going on. First, we select where are the landing zones, so where we should land. And of course, I will not check each hex coordinates on the map, but you can hover here this button and you will have highlighted the landing zone. So you can see this is the island that is interesting to us, but we can select different landing zones. The game select them randomly, and I can flag one of the hexes that I am interested in. And if I will use new proposal, then the game will try to find next round new landing zones, but close to this one. And please notice that we have also possibility to land on the other island on the west, and even on the third one. So we have many options because the sea zone of this trade house is bordering with many islands or continents. But in my case, I will select probably the first one because it's close enough to me. And now the second part of the negotiations is from which port that you own, you would like to start the logistical connection. And here you can see how many port points you have. The more you have, the more logistical points you will be able to achieve in future. But in case of transport contract, both, so the landing zone and the starting zone matters. So the lowest will decrease the amount of logistics between those 2 points. Please notice that you need to have port. And also, if I select this button, I can see which port can be the starting zone. I have one on west part of my zone, but also you can use one on the east part, because the game will try to find a route between multiple sea zones owned by multiple trade houses to reach the target destination from this hex. So I will select the second option. Let's do it. Now we are in the third phase of the negotiations. So how long the contract should last and how many logistical points we would like to have. This is the maximum amount of logistics, and the maximum is decreased by the lowest port points available from the start to end. So we have 400 in the start location and there is no port at the end location. And if there is no port, we'll have only 25% of the logistical points. So probably something around 100, depending how many logistical points we'll select here. So I will select first option, so 500 for 3 rounds. And to see any effects, we need to wait for next round. Okay, we are in next round. Let's jump to our island. But what happened? I don't see anything here. So what is going on? If you click this hex, you can see there is a Recon 10. And this is not our land. This is a minor regime land. So where is our connection? If we enable the logistical layer by pressing L, or simply we can click here current points, you can see there is our logistical line. 125 logistical points available in this hex, and they are flowing over the water because the trade house use their ships to transfer logistics. So now if we go to the MTH, here I am later in the game, so I have more options. You can see that we have shares and the color is representing the regime, in this case us. But let's find the air ocean. And here you can see tonnage available 4,000, and they are transporting 500 of the tonnage for Togolar nation. So for us, we are Togolar nation. So we are consuming 500 from their tonnage available for our logistics, and we have 500 contracted. Also, the price was cheap because they are not greedy and we are shareholder. Please notice that the map changed. We know much more, and they are highlighted using the blue color and we are light green. Here we also have much more information. So we see other trade houses and what is their relation towards this trade house, and we see their profile alignment. So they have heart and democracy. This is the amount of credits that they have. And we are receiving 242 credits because of the dividends, but we'll talk about this later. For now, we have contract. So in the MTH contracts, you can see that we have a contract for 125 logistical points, but this is only 25% of the contracted points. Here you can see why. Due to the missing trade port points, because we have 400 requested at the start and 0 points at the end, and the minimum is 25. That's why we have a big reduction of what we have contracted. But it's fine because we have some logistics. We can improve this, but if we zoom out, please notice what is the path. So the logistics goes through the Hestia Trade House zone, also through the Poseidon Bay, and then later up to the Skadi Great Lake. So the fact that we are crossing multiple zones that are belonging to multiple trade houses is not a problem for the transport contract. And even from this port, if we zoom out more, we could reach this place. Of course, I could select this port on the south, because here also we have a port, and it was one of the options, the third one. But please notice that this is only 200 port points. And here we have 400 port points. But sadly, the problem is that in our destination, there is no port. We are really limiting our capacity. So now what we can do? We can transfer some units. So let's jump to the capital and find some units. We have 125 logistical points. For example, this militia is too heavy. They weigh 136, but maybe we have some other units. Usually GR units are very light, so this is only 7 of weight, but this militia, 84. Their weight is less than the capacity, so we first need to reach any road. Now we go to the orders and we select strategical move, or we press S on the keyboard, and we can use a normal strategical move like on the roads, but also you can see here this arrow and those blue dots. Those blue dots are also available for strategical movement. So we can move our militia here or maybe even here. If now I will right click, you can see the militia was transferred over the sea using the ships provided by the trade house, and we decrease the amount of logistics that we have on this route. So 41 is not enough to transfer more units. Okay, maybe we could also transfer this one because it's very, very light. So zoom out, go here and transfer 2 units. See, this is zone called none, but next round this will be converted to a normal zone of my empire. And then we'll be able to do something more useful, because to increase the capacity, I will disable the strategical move. We need to build something, and we can now construct the makeshift port. But we have to select the zone that is bordering with our island or continent and execute makeshift port. Let's do it. Negotiations will start next round. So let's play next round. Okay, we are in next round. The zone is still called none, and we have no assets in this zone, but it belongs to our empire. And now, if I go to decisions, there is makeshift port meeting, because each MTH card has its own meeting. And now we can agree details. So I can pay 250 credits to create a makeshift port in the place where I have active transport contract. If I hover this button, you can see it's a hex that we selected as the landing zone for our transport contract. And if I select this option and pay the credits, and please notice what happened. Now we have here asset, makeshift port, and it's costing us no population and providing 200 port points. This is quite good and beneficial asset, and later we can nationalize it as public asset. And also, you can see now we have a normal zone, and next round we'll be able to nominate a governor here, and we have a connection. But still, 125 logistical points available because there is a production delay, because this makeshift port, if we hide the units and click preview, you can see next round there is no port points, because this round we created this asset. Next round it will produce port points, and next round the port points will be available. So let's wait one more round. We are in the next round. Still no increase in the capacity, but please notice there is a number here that this round we have produced 200 port points, and it means that those points will be available in next round. So now if I click P on the keyboard to preview the logistics, you can see next round I will have here 200 light blue port points and the capacity will increase to 275 because between those two places we have 200 here and 400 here. So the lowest is 200. So we have 200 and our contract is for 500. So there is 300 points difference and the game simply get 25% from the 300 as additional points on top of those 200. Currently we have 125 logistics available and we have units, and units will need some supplies. So for example, our militia, they are consuming 8 food, and also if they will be fighting they will need ammunition, and the second unit needs energy. Normally we don't pay any logistics for energy or fuel or water, but if they are transported via sea, then depending on the trade house, on average the weight is 0.25. So 4 units of water or fuel will weigh 1 point of logistics. And as long as we have this connection, we can be supplied from our SHQ. So I can fight using those units and receive supplies. But sooner or later, this connection can disappear because our contract will end, or because we will lose this hex, or because we lose the hex with the port where we are starting the connection. So those are situations where we might lose our connection. If they are wars between trade houses, they are not affecting this line directly, but it can be affected if the trade house will lose some ships during the war with another trade house. So currently, if I go to the air ocean, they have 8 ships and the tonnage available 4,000. So if during the war with another trade house they would lose half of the fleet, then the tonnage would be half. Currently I contracted 500, but if I would contract 4,000 and they would lose half of the fleet, then I would have a problem with logistics because of that. Okay, so what we can do with this zone? Each zone, as you know, has its own stock of resources, and currently we have 18 food here. And I can send here more using the transfer option. So I can transfer from SHQ to the zone, and I can choose the zone that we have created, so the last one. This button is the right one, and now I select what I would like to transfer to this zone. And as we know that sooner or later we might be disconnected from our SHQ, it's better to transfer some food, let's say 100 food. So let's transfer. And you can see we have 118 food available. Also, I would need some ammunition, let's say 100 ammunition. You can see it appeared here. And also some energy. This is for our GR unit because they are using energy as ammunition. We can also nominate a governor to manage this zone. We need to have some population here. So that's why we can also send some colonists. We can send them as population currently. Let's say 1000 colonists. They are here. Please notice that we are utilizing the current logistics. So we have 8 available. So I am not able to send much more this round, but slowly we are building some stock of resources. So this is very good. Our units can start maybe some exploration, but we can see that there are enemy forces hiding because those hexes have heavy rain, and rain gives them height points. They have 3 height points on top of the universal height points, so 5 height points. That's why we were not able to see them. There is a rainy zone. Even on the plain terrain, they can be invisible. But we have a new hex for our new zone. Probably in the mountains also somebody can be hit then, because there is 30 landscape height points in mountains. And let's play next round. We are in next round, and you can see that the amount of logistical points is not changing. If we go to the MTH contracts, you can see that there are 4 rounds left for this contract, and the efficiency of our transport is 55% of the contracted points. On this screen, you can hover the from and to locations. So from this port, we are sending to this port. So you can see on the map exactly starting and ending hex. And if you would like to extend this contract for longer, you can click it, and here you can negotiate extension for the contract. So +1 extra round, +4, +6, but this will be using the prices from the original contract. So we are not negotiating new prices here. So we can extend, let's say, for one more round. And you can see now it changed to 5. So how to utilize the full amount of logistics, because 500 was contracted. We need to build some assets. So in this case, we have Makeshift Port, and it's not enough. So we can nationalize it for 2000 credits. Let's do it. And now there is port, which will provide next round 1000 port points. So our capacity of the network will be limited not by this hex, but the hex from which we start the line. So 400 will be the limit, not 200. Also, we can try to build some road here and move forward. Let's control the land here. If I preview the logistics for next round and hide units, please notice that this road does not contain any logistical points. It's because we deliver the points to this hex, but to move them further, we need to have here a track station. So we should also construct here from the logistical assets a track station. Because currently our units are taking the supplies. If we go to the used points and hide units, you can see they are taking it from this hex. So I will send one unit more just for safety. Let's say those motorbikes from here, we will send them directly and we play next round. We are in a new round, and please notice that we have hunger in our zone. It's because we forgot one important element. If we call the governor, we should allow the emergency food because they don't have their own local production. So I select allow emergency food. Also, I will make them unincorporated because I don't want them to pay taxes, and to improve the happiness and improve the budget and salary. Confirm. So next round they should receive food from our SHQ. If we enable logistics, you can see on the road there is no logistics, and we are trying to build asset, but we couldn't because there are no workers. So probably I should send here, let's say 1000 workers to work and construct those assets. Also the port after nationalization required 2000 workers and 500 for support. So we need another 2500. So here you can see 2800 is needed more. I don't think I have so many. No, I have exactly 2800. So before you expand to a new island or continent using the transport contract, ensure that you have enough colonists. Because if you will start adding new assets, especially public ones, then you will have a problem with workers. But let's extend our road a bit. Please notice that I couldn't extend the road from this hex, but I had to select this one because only this hex has connection with SHQ. So from this hex I cannot extend the road, only from this one, because there is no logistics here yet, until they will build a track station. And sadly, we even have a damage because we couldn't provide the upkeep. So situation is not good. Let's play next round. Now you can see workers started to work in public assets, the damage is decreasing, and they finalize the track station. Our port will produce much more port points. So let's predict the future, and we can see 700 port points will be available here, but still no logistics because we have also production delay for track station. So next round this asset will start to produce logistics, and in round +2 they will be applied and visible over the road. And also the units don't have supply because if we go back to our SHQ, you can see that some rebel forces cut this road, and this road was leading to the port here. So this port now cannot deliver any supplies because we are disconnected from the SHQ. And for such situations, the zone should supply our units. And to do this, we need to call the governor and select here in zone units supply. Allow supplying units if shortfall. Then if we confirm, next round this zone will use the items that we have sent before to supply units inside that zone. So let's check if this will happen. We are in next round and you can see that the units are receiving supplies. And in the zone stock, you can see that 38 food was used to supply units in zone. So they receive the food directly from the stock of the zone because we don't have connection with the SHQ. You can see the SHQ still cannot provide anything over this road because this road is taken by some rebel forces. So here I am showing you that even if the zone is disconnected from SHQ, it can survive best if we would have a local production of the food, for example, some private farms. But sadly, we don't have oil. But what to do if we are disconnected from SHQ and we don't have fuel to produce the logistics? There is another way to do this. You can use the trade and we will trade to the zone. Not to SHQ, but to the zone. Here you can see name of our zone and we will buy fuel. Sadly, I can buy only 2 points of fuel. Let's do it. And if we go to items, you can see we have trade from traders to fuel. So not much, but if the traders would allow to buy more, this way you can supply your zone. In case of our main zone, if I would like to trade by the zone, here I can buy 36 fuel. So probably because of the distance and here we have isolated location far away with logistics over the sea, we have limited trading, but this is possible. I have played few more rounds to show you that now if I hide units, we have logistics over the road, which is provided by the track station. So our units can go further without worrying of the supply lines. But in case if we would lose this connection and this zone would be self-sufficient, then always you can raise a formation and create a new SHQ. So here there is an option to create new strategic headquarter. And in this moment, the second SHQ will have its own stock of resources. So now we have 2 SHQ units, but this one is empty. Because if we go to the quick zone bar, you can see that all zones are assigned to the first SHQ. So now we need to reassign this one to the second SHQ. To do this, you need to select the zone. And here there is a button Zone SHQ. And here I can select to which SHQ this zone should be sending and receiving from all items. So set to second. And now you can see this zone belongs to second SHQ. And next round, any transportation that is going out or going in will be done through this SHQ. And one comment to assigning a zone to SHQ if we are on a different continent. I could still have this zone assigned to the first SHQ. If I will do this, now all zones, including this one, which is on different continent, will cooperate with first SHQ. And there is a special option in SHQ to manage that. If we jump to the capital and if we select our SHQ, we can go to the unit administration and there are here 3 special options. We can decide if this SHQ should supply units by the sea logistics. So our units on the island as before could be supplied, but we could also stop sending supplies to other units that are connected using the sea logistics. We could stop sending supplies to zones. So this way, the zone that we created would never receive any items from our SHQ. They will be disconnected. And now they will receive, but they need to belong to this SHQ, like now. And the third option is if the zone should send items over the sea to this SHQ. And this is not selected, so the zone will not send by default, but our SHQ will send to the zone. But if we go to the zone and now we reverse the situation, so we assign to the second SHQ, then this zone has nothing with first SHQ options, because this SHQ has its own options. So here you can select the same, but we don't have any zone which is connected over the sea logistics with that SHQ. So in this case, those options will change nothing. So it might be safer to keep this zone with the first SHQ as long as you have this sea connection. So now I will change it back to first SHQ. So this is quite important. But if from some reason the logistics here will disappear, then this zone will no longer be able to receive any supplies. Then we should connect with the second SHQ, and then we will be able to receive those items that are stored in the second SHQ. And this zone we will set to first SHQ because we have the connection and we are receiving the items because the first SHQ is supplying the zones by sea. But if the logistics is limited over the sea, like here, it would be good to have better control what we really are sending, what items we want to receive and what items we want to send back. And for this, you can call the governor, and there is a zone inventory order here. So now we are able to control per each item what should be sent to SHQ or what should be received from SHQ. So let's say I am blocking water because, for example, our zone can have its own water source using the free water collection, and I will block sending metal and food to the SHQ, but this is needed only if you enable the SHQ to receive items through the sea logistics. So in our case, this will be not needed, but let's set it. Adding another SHQ is not recommended in many cases, but if you play Oceania, then you might need the second SHQ much more often than on normal core planets, because more often here you are disconnected from your empire. And such zone can be self-efficient, but because why we need this SHQ? To send supplies to the units and to receive any surplus items from the zone. But of course, in our case, we have set the zone to support and supply units. So now we could call the governor and never supply units from the zone and do all logistical actions via this SHQ. The one missing point is now to go to the first SHQ, select transfer, and we will target the second SHQ. Please notice there are new options on the top because here we are transferring between SHQ units, and we target the second SHQ and we can select, let's say, I will send them some metal, ammunition, and please notice that we have only 11 points left. But for bulk items, we have 44 points. By bulk items, we mean water, fuel, energy. Those items, even if we see here weight 1, we can send them more over the logistical network, which is provided by MTH contract. I should be able to send 11 water, but you can see that I can send 43. So now I can jump to the zone, and in this SHQ we have our items. So let's play next round and check how now the situation will look like if we have new SHQ. We are in next round, and if we check our units, you can see that they are supplied. And if we check from where units are getting supplies, you can see that still they are trying to receive supplies from the original SHQ. Why is that? Because this tank belongs to the first SHQ, and that's why it will request supplies from the original SHQ. So I can go to unit administration, change, select the second one, and now if we go to order of battle, you can see that that independent tank unit now will try to communicate with the second SHQ. The first one manage all other units. Okay, now auctions. This is a very important part of Oceania. So one of the trade houses which we have contact with started an auction. If you go to decisions, one of them is auction, and here you can buy one share that is offered on the market by Skadi Great Lake Trade House. And the minimum bid requested is 210 credits, and we can decide how much we want to spend. And this is a kind of hazard game in this case. So we don't know if other major regimes will be able to give more money to buy the share or not. So sometimes 210 would be enough, but if this is really important trade house for you, sometimes giving more might be important. And also this price depends on the relation and greedy of the trade house. So let's say I can pay 300 credits to buy this share, and simply I click bid, and next round we'll see who win. The amount of credit was subtracted from our credits this round, and if somebody else will have higher bid, then we will get back our amount of credits. But if we will win, we'll pay the amount that we were offering. So let's check next round. And here you can see that our bid, 300 credits for one Skadi Great Lake share, was the highest. So we won the auction, and we now own the total of 1 shares. So now if we go to the reports MTH, you can see that they have 9 in total. We have 1 and others have 0. So we are the main shareholder, and that's why we can see here our color, because our color is this yellow one. And if we go there, you can see that they have quite a lot of money. So I expect that next round they will pay us some dividend. So we will get small amount of credits each round because we are shareholder of their shares. And also this will allow us to gain influence points. And if we have a share, also we can see much more information on the screen. And we have details in the log tab. We can see what is happening and even what they are trading. So you can see they sold 46 metal to traders. But in the log, there are some interesting elements, like they are considering Poseidon Bay friendly, also Apollo Sea friendly. You can see that they are not thinking of attacking anyone, so they are not aggressive. Here there is information about our auction, and here you can see even that they are thinking of buying a new ship, ideally +2, and they spent 1000 credits to buy 1 new ship. So if we go to the overview, you can see that their fleet has 7 ships now, which will increase their available tonnage. They are not aggressive, but if they would, the warfare is very low, so they would simply losing their ships. So let's play next round and see if we are getting any credit. Also this round, there was another auction offered by Air Ocean MTH. So we can go to the decisions. There is another auction. This is quite cheap one. So why not to spend 240 to buy it? Let's do it. Because this is quite important MTH, because they have very good location. They are responsible for our access to different continents, because we need to think strategically here. So this area is very important for us. So let's play next round and we'll see. And you can see that in this case we also won the auction. So we have 1 share of the other MTH. And now if we go to the MTH report, you can see that our color appears in 2 rows. And if we go to the overview, treasury cash flow, and scroll down, you can see that here there is a new section, dividend income. And currently we only have 1 from the previous round, and we are getting 40 credits per round from the dividends. So if we go back to the Skadi Great Lake, here you can see that they have paid a dividend. And if we go to logs, we have more information, like their earnings were 0 credits, 1/20 of their treasure is 166 credits, and they consider 74% for dividend pay. So they check their treasury, there is some threshold above which they will pay dividends, and they paid 40 dividends for our regime. So this is quite good source of income. Let's play next round to see the other one. We are in next round. If we open treasury cash flow, scroll down, you can see now we have here 2 rows for the MTH where we have an dividends. And this round we received 26 from the old one and 10 from the new one. So you can have much more, and it's good to have MTH which can pay you the most of the dividends. So Oceania is kind of economical simulation also. And now let's talk about sea battles. I have loaded the first planet to show you how the war between trade houses looks like. If we go to the trade houses report, for those where you are a shareholder and you have very good information, if we go to logs, Here you can read some interesting information regarding their plans. So they are considering Aphrodite Sea a hostile, and there is a chance to go to war 20%. And they decided that it's time to go war. They considering the strength ratio between their fleet size and the enemy fleet size, and they are considering naval operations against Aphrodite Sea Trade House. But they had organizational issues to scramble ships for offensive operation. They want to go to war, but they had some issues. But if they will be able to go to war, and you can see they decided to focus on gathering more intel before committing to battle. So they somehow had some issues and decided to wait for better situation to attack. Also, please notice that they postponed the ship construction because of the dividend payment considerations. So this is quite interesting and funny to read those logbooks. And if they will go for war, you will receive a special Vidcom message. But let's compare the strength. So they are against the Aphrodite Sea. So they have 6 ships, and Aphrodite Sea, they have, we don't know how many, but we know that the strength rate was quite good. So now let's check how the battle looks like. This is a Vidcom message when there is a maritime battle report. In this case, the battle was between different trade houses. In this case, Aphrodite Sea, so the target of our friends, they made a brilliantly well-executed naval attack on MTH Baobab's main. They used only 1 ship and they engaged 0 enemy ships. So it was quite strange battle. Probably this trade house was so weak that they had 0 ships. So as a result, in the next screen, we can see that they could simply took their zone because this trade house probably had no longer any ships to defend themselves. And they have taken a sea zone. So now if we go to the reports, you can see that they now have 2 zones. And here on the map, we can see that there are 2 zones belonging to them. They have their initials. You can see here much more colors because on this map, as I said before, we can see everyone and they have different colors to distinguish between area of each other. And the light green is ours. So you can see how many trade houses I can see. And also how full is this bar regarding relations. And here you can see that they are at war with Aphrodite Sea, but we have seen no battles yet. And in the next round, we finally can see the battle between our trade house, and they made averagely executed naval attack on the Aphrodite Sea. So 6 ships engage 4 enemy ships, and they have lost 5 friendly ships and sink 4 enemy ships. It was really averagely executed. So it was deadly, bloody sea battle between trade houses. But they could take a zone from them. So they accomplished their goal. Let's go there to check how it looks like. So you can see now they have taken a zone. Before Aphrodite Sea had those 2 zones, and now Dionys took this one. So the situation can be quite dynamic, but please notice they have aggression 86. That's why they are really trying to fight, but because of the warfare, it was not averagely executed. They don't have good admirals. And also here, if there is any battle, you will see a battle history section. This round we took Aphrodite Sea from Aphrodite Sea. So this one. And in the logs, we should see something. So here you can see even details of the battle. So there are some modificators and there is an offensive role versus defensive role. You can see they had a slightly better role in defense. They engage enemies in naval combat and that was averagely executed. So those logs are fun to read and the situation can be really dynamic. That's why sooner or later it will be quite important where you invested your money. Because now they have 2 ships and if I would have a big transport contract, I would lose most of the logistical points, which could cause big problems to our other colony. Okay, but we have some influence points and they support is moderate. So now let's talk about leaders. Playing with Oceania DLC, you can do some politics. So let's say there are some trade houses where the leader has a weak support. What does it mean? it means that the opposition can replace him, and then they will change the two attributes. So if we go to log, you can see that the opposition or elder has more support, and there are roles between those two. In this case, both lost 1 point of support, but if that role would be higher, then the opposition slowly will gain power. And in such situations, sometimes you might want to change the leader because, for example, it's too close and it's too aggressive. So you would like to change the leader, because if the leader will be changed, then the game reverses the aggression. So let's try to do this, because he has weak position. To influence them, I need to have influence points, but I have, because I am shareholder and I have 2 shares. So I can go to Stratagems and I can call for policy meeting and select this trade house. And let's wait 1 round. After we call the policy meeting, there is a decision called policy. And here we have many options. We can do quite many different actions. And for example, we can agitate, so we can undermine the current MTH leadership. And this is what we want to do. But also we can convince them to pay more dividends, or maybe to buy more ships, or even we can convince them to be less piracy friendly, which will prevent minor regimes who are aggressive to land on our shore. There are many options that we can do. So let's say I would like to undermine the current leadership. And now I can decide how many influence points I would like to spend. Let's say 50 points. So we have slightly degraded the relation with them, but the support for the new leadership went by +13. Mission accomplished. So they will have some problems. And you can see their position is very weak. And I wonder if there will be a change next round. Sadly, he is still there. And we can see that the opposition leader got more support and he has a chance to take over. 13%. That was the chance to take over the position of the new elder. And here you can see how the new elder event looks like. In this case, it's a different trade house, so Skadi Great Lake. And you can see that the previous leader has been replaced by Libby Tribute. And please notice the aggression has changed from 41 to 84. And the expansion rating from 26 to 39. So usually there is a quite reverse change in those two attributes if the leader is changed. And now we can try to increase or decrease the relation. And in general, if I would like to help the previous leader to stay and strengthen his position, I could also play Intel support. This card, as you can see in the description, help the current MTH leadership stay in the power. So there can be quite nice political game in Oceania. Here we can simply sell our shares and receive money. And so we are selling back our shares. And if you can also demand auction, so we pressure them to sell more of its shares. Quite expensive card. Here we can pay money to give them more ships. Or even there are sometimes paid cards like stock emission. So the MTH will issue from 6 to 12 new shares and half can be auctioned off. So quite interesting card. And also there is a card in covered ops section and we can learn information on a zone. So let's play this card on this zone. In this case, we are targeting zone, not the sea zone. Execute. And you can see we have more information. Our agents have been in contact with the MTH people to uncover information and rumors. Usually those talks require some smoothing over free drinks and other little attentions. So we know that they have about 100 populace and 6,800 free folks. So I would say, yeah, this is quite minimal information. Not a lot of people knew anything and we use 50 credits to bribe them. So we have some instant information. So let's try on major regime this time. Oh, here the information is much better. So we know that they have 70,000 populace and 62,000 free folks. So this is Intel information. And once again, let's check this minor regime, execute. And you can see we also have additional information that there is undiscovered water deposit in this zone. This is a kind of prospecting done by our spies. So quite interesting card. In some cases, if you have good relation with some trade houses, like here you can see the bar is green, the relation is good enough, they can offer you the alliance. So if you go to the decisions, from time to time you can see the message that MTH proposes alliance. So they would like to have a significant percentage of governors, directors, and SHQ slots, and in exchange they are offering us free leaders. So from time to time we receive leaders that are sent from MTH, and it's working similar as leaders sent by factions. So we can treat those trade houses as a kind of factions. So if I will agree, we increase the relation, and also they will start sending new leaders. Let's see which one in next round. You will see MTH leader recruitment decision, so we can hire somebody new to our regime. Let's do it. And now if we go to leaders, in this case we receive capability level 3 leader, so better than I would expect from trade house leaders. But if we go to this leader details, you can see that they have special feature, MTH leader. It means that they will have increased trade rating. You can see +10 to trade, because they still somehow belong to the trade house. And what is important is that those leaders should get a job sooner or later, because we have promised that they will be directors, commanders, or governors. And after some rounds, the trade house will check what is the situation regarding the recruitment. So let's see how it looks like. Here I have got the MTH Alliance review decision, and the trade house noticed that all leaders that they send to our empire occupy only 16% of the governor, director, on SHQ commander positions, and they require that they should occupy 54%. So it looks like we are not fulfilling the demand. But please notice that they will provide us with a price divider on the contracts with them, and our relations will improve if we keep up our side of the deal. So this alliance is quite beneficial. But we have here an option. We can continue the alliance and rather fulfill the demand, or we can stop the alliance. Also, if we go to the MTH report, you can see that our flag is with the green background, and now also the relation shows that we are in alliance. It's visible in the hint also. Trade policy is fair, and if we'll offer them any contracts, they should be much cheaper. And here we can see relation with other trade houses. So the decision is tricky, because sometimes I don't want to keep low-level leaders in the position. So in this case, I will answer no. They are disappointed, but the relation decreased to warm, and filter by leader features, MTH leader. You can see that we have still some leaders that we have hired before during this alliance, and now their relation will be less impacted by the job that we promised. As long as the trade house exists, and their relation will change towards the relation that we have with the trade house. If the relation with trade house will be very bad, the relation also can decrease. But if the trade house will be somehow defeated in the war, they will have no longer such relation connection. Okay, that's regarding alliance. And now let's talk about trade policy, because relation is not everything. Relation tell us how they like us, but not what is the trade policy. If you hover here, you can see the last row in the hint is trade policy towards you is fair. So what does it mean? It means that if traders from our trade area are buying something from this trade house, there are no additional costs. And for example, here, the relation is cold, but still the trade policy is fair. So even if we have worse relations, they didn't change the trade policy. But here we have better relation than in the previous one, but they changed the trade policy as abuse. And this is problematic, because now our traders, if they will try to buy something from this trade house, they will pay twice the price. That's why in the trade log, you can see what they are doing and how much they paid, but also we can see sell prices and buy prices. And this asterisk sign tells us that it depends on how greedy the trade house is and what is the trade policy, because trade policy can influence prices. It's a multiplier for our traders. There is also even worse trade policy, stranglehold, which will make the buy prices 4 times more expensive for our traders. So it's good to know about the distinction between the relation and the trade policy, which might affect the trading between MTH and your local traders. It also means that if they want to sell something to our traders, they will receive better prices. And our traders will have to pay market price multiplied by 2 or by 4. And last element I would like to mention are water-based creatures. So here you can see there is unknown unit, which is water-based. We don't know if they will enter the land or only will move across the sea. So it's good to keep an eye on them. And here I have finally discovered that this unit, it was a water-based orca. It doesn't have the amphibious trait, so they are not able to enter the land. But also I discovered here a Queen of Alliance. It's Arcanid Queen, but it's not part of Oceania. And also the Piracy. So if we go to the MTH, for example, they are pro-piracy. It means that if you have any minor regimes who are aggressive, like riders, they might ask them to transport their units into one of your zones. And if the MTH is pro-pirate, they can be more eager to do this. And then you can have a surprise attack. And here, for example, see some small army of pirates. So if you have MTH in the heart of your empire and they have quite big area, then maybe it will be worth to organize a policy meeting and change their piracy attitude, or convince other stronger trade house to attack them, or simply find the nearby minor regimes that could attack you and attack them first. But in general, surprise attacks from pirate minor regimes might be problematic. I think this is all regarding Oceania. You should be able to know the basic mechanics. So if you bought the DLC and you don't play it, now probably is the time to give it a try. I need to admit that Oceania is better than I thought. If you understand that the concept is a bit different, and also for roleplay is quite nice, especially if you read the MTH logs. So thank you for watching, and the sea is waiting for you.